Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I am just outside Ensign Peak Park, and I'm going to climb up that peak. It's about half a mile, and it's very grueling. Now, I've actually seen some other YouTube channels and other travel guides said, well, anybody can climb up that trail, or anybody and their grandma can. Well, I completely call bullcrap because that hike was grueling. For somebody who was out of shape like me, yeah, it was a challenge, but I did it. I definitely did not give up, and there were a lot of steep parts to it, and it was dry. It was not muddy or anything like that, which was good. That's another thing, you know, be sure to come out here during good weather, and be sure to come out here when it's not so hot. Like, this is the early morning hours in Salt Lake. So there are I think there are at least two places to park. There's one at the Hell's Canyon, and then like right here. And join me. There are lots of historical markers here that talk about the significance of Ensign Peak. Let's do this. So this is Ensign Peak Nature Park. That is where I'll be hiking to. Yeah, that big one up there. It's scary. But here are some markers here at this little plaza. You can sit down a little bit, have a good time with the kids. And it says here this was dedicated by LDS President Jordan B. Hinckley on July 26, 1996. We'll be seeing that at the top of the peak. This is a welcome to Ensign Peak. And then, yeah, it talks a little bit about the valley and how Brigham Young declared this is the place. The American Indians. Now, that's something that didn't really get talked about because, yes, before the Mormons came here, yes, you did have some Indian tribes that were here, or Native Americans, sorry. Indian hunters probably used Ensign Peak as a vantage point to scout for prey. Many camped near the warm springs west of here at the base of the mountain. The Salt Lake Valley was a meeting place and campsite for several bands, which were composed of Shoshone and Ute-speaking Indians. These Indian people traveled in small extended family groups to hunt fish and gather berries, insects, roots, and seeds. One chief, Little Soldier, was born in the Red Butte foothills southeast of here. Juan Ship, another leading chief, made his headquarters in the Salt Lake Valley. And then the explorers. In 1776, the first non-native explorers entered Utah. They were led by Franciscan fathers Francisco Antonio Dominguez and Silvestre Velez de Escalante, who hoped to establish a new trail from New Mexico to their California missions. After visiting the Ute bands living near Utah Lake, the Padres returned to New Mexico. They had not reached the Salt Lake Valley. And then it all talks about 45 years later, traders and mountain men entered this region in search of animal pelts. They opened trails and charted rivers and mountain passes. And Miles Goodyear, Jim Bridger, Peter Ogden, Jedediah Smith were among them. And then the pioneers, or the first settlers in the Salt Lake Valley, which we'll be learning about up there. And then the nature park, and then the trail. Not much historical information on here, but it does say it's a reminder that the hike from here to the summit of Ensign Peak is 0.47 miles. Okay, so it's about half a mile. Now, if I were to go to Hell's Canyon, if I would have parked there, it would have been a mile long. But this was the only parking lot that I knew about. The elevation increases 398 feet. Good to know. All right, and we're off. This is where to go. On your mark, get set, go. So early on the trail, there's a stopping point, or you can choose between going to Vista Mound, which is that way, or keep going on Ensign Peak. And of course, I'm going on Ensign Peak, and I've been advised to stay to the right. You can either take the sidewalk, or you can take that. I've done both. So, oh look, they even got a mud removal boot scraper. How about that? Very nice. Doesn't look like it's been used very much, but hey. So there's not many stops and places to sit. I mean, you can stop and take a breath or whatever anytime you like on this trail just to catch up on your lungs, but You can sit on some of these concrete blocks, and I don't know what they all say. Well, actually, I take that back. It's just rocks. I thought it said something there. But there is a historical marker here, something I haven't encountered in a while. This mostly talks about the valley. Earthquakes pushed up the Wasatch Mountain Range, leaving a fault line at the base of Ensign Peak and along the Great Salt Lake Valley. And the valley slopes down to the beaches of the Great Salt Lake. The Jordan River winds through the lowlands, carrying water from Utah Lake and mountain streams to the Great Salt Lake. According to Wilford Woodruff, as you can see, I'm kind of skipping, the pioneers who arrived here in July 1847 found that the whole whole appearance was altogether better throughout the valley than we had anticipated or even dreamed of. Just remember, this is what it looked like 1847, and then that's what it looks like May of 2023. Pretty cool, eh? All right, time to haul some. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the steepest it is, you know, but if I can haul my overweight, out of shape self up there, it'll be a miracle. Let's do this. All right. We are almost there. It's just right up the head, but still got to go a little bit more steepness, ascending upwards. But first, I'm going to check out the view. And this is probably the best view of the Salt Lake City Airport. And then all the cars and trucks going on Interstate 15, or I don't know how they say interstate here in Utah, but in California they say the 15. And I see some more hiking trails, and I don't see anybody on them, but I take that back. I do see a few. They're like ants. All right, and cue Rocky music. I have made it to the top, baby. And a lot of people had the same idea. They wanted to take in the views. And it looks like there's a few markers here. There should be one on the corner here, and here it is. All right, here we go. Ensign Peak. Sorry about the wind, by the way. Put up in 1934, July 26, 1847. 2 days after the Mormon pioneers entered this valley, Brigham Young and party climbed to this point, and with the aid of field glasses made a careful survey of the mountains, canyons, and streams. In the group were Heber C. Kimball, Wilford Woodruff, George A. Smith, Ezra T. Benson, Willard Richards, Albert Carrington, and William Clayton. Wilford Woodruff, first to ascend the peak, suggested it is a fitting place to set up an ensign. That is from the book of Isaiah 11:12 in the Bible. It was then named Ensign Peak. Subsequently, the stars and stripes were raised here. And now there is no flag here, but I have seen photos of the flag being here.
No, but that's not very far.
And I'm going to go ahead and show you this really awesome view. This, of course, is the city of Salt Lake City. It is a major important city, although it is not one of the 100 most populated in America. But if you combine all of the suburbs and all the linking cities, it is one of the top metropolitan areas. So it is kind of hard to believe, even though Utah is steadfastly growing. That there is the Utah State Capitol, if you can see it. That, of course, is downtown, Temple Square, all that jazz. That is the airport, of course, where I'll be at tomorrow, heading home, unfortunately. And those are the Wasatch Mountains. I can never pronounce these names. And I'll show you the Salt Lake, which, of course, the city got its namesake, which is just right over there. You probably can't see it; it's very small, but I can see it. That is Interstate 15, or the 15, which that way it takes you all the way to Las Vegas and Provo, Utah, and St. George, Utah. That takes you to Ogden, Utah, as well as Idaho and Montana. And then you have all the beautiful homes that are down below me. I don't know what it would be like living on top of a hill or mountain, especially with 360-degree scenery, but when it snows, of course, I definitely had to have a backup plan. So unfortunately, there's not very much sitting area on top of this part. Of course, you got the natural rocks and everything. And here's 3 more markers for you. This is about the summit. Now, Brigham Young, before he left Nauvoo, Illinois, he said that Joseph Smith, the deceased prophet, had appeared to him in a vision and had shown him a place where the banner of liberty should wave. When he viewed this peak as he entered the Salt Lake Valley on July 24th, 1847, Brigham reportedly said, "This is the place," adding, "I want to go there." 2 days later, still weak from mountain fever, he insisted on climbing to the summit. 8 others made the hike with him, where they spent several hours in prayer and counsel. They gazed over the valley and made plans for the new city. They wanted their new home to become the ensign for the nations, of which Isaiah had prophesied in the Bible, hence the name Ensign Peak. No ensign or flag was flown on that occasion, but perhaps a yellow bandana, tied to a cane, was waved as a symbolic gesture. Within a few weeks, an American flag was hoisted on the summit. And it's a reminder that we are at 5,416 feet. And by the way, the city of Salt Lake City is at 4,331 feet above sea level. This marker is about flags on Ensign Peak. Shortly after the coming of the Mormons in 1847, an American flag was flown from the summit. Early settlers may have also flown their special flag of the kingdom here. This kingdom flag was never formalized into an exact pattern, but likely had 12 blue and white stripes and 1 or more blue stars. It was likely flown from Ensign Peak as part of the first Pioneer Day celebration held in 1849. I'm going to go ahead and skip the rest of the text on here, but this marker talks about the view, the one I just showed you. Ensign Peak provided Brigham Young's 1847 exploring party with a good view of the Salt Lake Valley, cradled between the Oquirrh Mountains to the west and the Wasatch Range to the east. The valley was covered with tall grass, sagebrush, and desert flowers, but few trees. A river, which they later named the Jordan, ran the length of the valley and emptied into the Great Salt Lake. They observed a number of mountain streams flowing into the river. Below where they stood, efforts were underway to cultivate the land. From this vantage point, the group began to lay plans for the city. Alright, so get a little look here. Emigration Canyon. And this is the place State Park, University of Utah, State Capitol, Temple Square. And there's the airport. I'm going to go ahead and get one last look of what's below me. I hope this definitely inspires you guys to come up here, because I'll say it again, if I can do it, you can do it. Just be a little patient and believe in yourself.